live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.
Benny Ricciardi is here to break down the day's betting board for you.
Let's go, Jerry. Go!
Taking a first look at the day's bets, it's time for the FTN Betting Show.
Welcome to the FTN Betscast for Sunday, May 29th here at FTN Bets, sponsored by our friends at Sleeper. Sleeper is the fastest growing fantasy platform today with millions of players, and now you can win on Sleeper by playing in their new over-under game. It's super easy to play. So first, in any sport, you're going to choose two or more players that you like, and you're going to pick whether it's going to go over or under the listed total. So for example, something like today in the NBA, we'd be looking at the number of points a player could score, number of rebounds that he could get, the number of assists that he could have. Then you're going to choose an amount of money that you want to enter into the contest. If you pick correctly, you can win anywhere from 2 times your money all the way up to 20 times your money if you go 5 out of 5 and get them all correct. But the main reason why I'm excited about this over-under game on Sleeper is that it's the only app where you could join in with all your buddies and play together. It has a built-in group chat where you can see what I'm playing. I can see what you're playing. We could all see what the guy who's won a bunch of days in a row in our group is playing. And then we could all follow along. And it's insanely fun when everybody is sweating out the same things together and rooting for the same things to happen so that we could all get paid. So stop what you're doing right now and download the Sleeper app, play their new over-under game, have fun with your friends, and make a little bit of money in the process. On your mobile phone, you can join our listener group by going to sleeper.com/FTNbets, and Sleeper will automatically match that first deposit you make up to $100. So again, down in the description below here, sleeper.com/FTNbets, and that makes you eligible for that 100% deposit match on your first deposit up to $100. Terms and conditions do apply, so see Sleeper's terms of use for details. Today is a special Sunday edition of the FTN Betscast because it is a special Sunday. Not only is it the day before Memorial Day, but it is Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals matchup between the Boston Celtics and the Miami Heat. So let's see here. Let's start with the injury news. So the Celtics have Marcus Smart a little bit banged up, Robert Williams a little bit banged up. Both guys I'm expecting to play. They both played, big minute. I mean, Smart played 40 minutes in the last game, so I think he's going to be playing a big role again in this game here. He's played 37 to 40 minutes in all the games that he's played so far in this series, except for the one game where they had the big blowout. I think it was game 5, if I'm not mistaken. We only played like 24 minutes when he came back from injury there. They didn't need to really push him. But last game, he was back up to 40 minutes. So it looks like Marcus Smart is going to be out there, going to be playing his normal minutes. Same thing with Robert Williams. He missed one game during the series. I think it was game 3. Every other game in the series, he's played his normal minutes, which are not high as Marcus is Smart. He's more like a 20 to 30 minute kind of guy, and I would expect he's going to be in there today as well. On the Miami side, a bunch of guys listed as questionable. The only one who's really not likely to play here today is probably Tyler Hero. Hero has an injury that would have probably kept him out for 2 to 4 weeks if this was any other time during the regular season where they didn't really need him. The only reason he's even pushed it this much is because of it being the playoffs and being how deep they are in the playoffs here. He has sat out the last couple games, though, and whenever a guy is sitting out and listed as questionable again, I'm going to need them to come out and flat out say that Tyler Hero is going to play here today. And, even if he does, I can't imagine he's anywhere near full strength. So, I wouldn't be looking at Tyler Hero as being the major. I love Tyler Hero. I think he's a very good player. I think he's somebody that has really helped this Miami team throughout the year. But I would not look for him to be making much of an impact in this Game 7 here today. There are a couple other guys listed as questionable for Miami, but I think all these other guys are likely to play. I mean, listen, PJ Tucker's banged up, but he's been playing. Jimmy Butler's banged up, but he's been playing. Max Strus has been on the, questionable list most of the playoffs. So is Gabe Vincent, but these guys are all playing as well. It's a Game 7. None of these guys are injured enough other than Tyler Hero, where it's probably going to keep him out. So I would be looking to see all these guys out there on the floor. Like I said, Hero probably being the only major injury guy that won't be in the game that we have to adjust for. Some of these other guys may not be 100%, so you may not expect them to play up to their full potential, their best of their abilities, but they're going to be out there on the floor. Kyle Lowry, Gabe Vincent, PJ Tucker, Max Strus, Jimmy Butler, Marcus Smart, Robert Williams. That's the list right there. So all those guys are very likely to be playing. The only one that may be out is Tyler Hero. So as you know, this is game 7, meaning that each one of these teams has 3 wins. But what I wanted to talk about is the way that each one of these teams has 3 wins, because this has been a back and forth series. And, it really has been a kind of a weird series. So game 1 in Miami wins by 11 points. In game 2, the Celtics come back and blow them off the floor to win by 25. Game 3, they go to Boston. Miami does what they need to do, flip the series back to them having home court advantage by winning a game in Boston. They won that game by, I think it was 6. I think 109-103 was the final in that one. Game 4, the Celtics come back, beat them by 20 to tie it up again at 2-2, absolutely blow them off the court. Game 5 in Miami, the Celtics did what they had to do, and they flipped home court advantage back to themselves by winning that game by 13. Everybody expected the Celtics to close it out in game 6, and Miami dug down deep after scoring only 82 points and 80 points in back-to-back games. Miami comes out and, pulls off a victory in Boston to bring this game back to Miami for the game 7 here. So what are we looking at here for this game? We had the Boston Celtics open as a 1-point favorite in this game. Looking around now, Boston is a 2.5-point favorite in, most of the books that I'm looking at here, DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, all have Boston minus 2.5 at minus 110 on the road. Very interesting here. Very interesting that Boston would be favored on the road. Miami plus 2.5 at home in a closeout game 7. You can get this slightly juiced down on Bet Rivers or Sugar House at minus 108. So if you're looking to get money down on the Miami side, minus 108, Bet Rivers, Sugar House, plus 2.5, the best number you can get. If you want to get down on the Boston side, again, you're not going to find any 2s. At least I don't see any 2s in the market at the moment. 2.5 is the low, minus 110. DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, all have it there. So you can play it at any one of those sites today if you want to get in on that. Like I said, I don't really know if the spread matters all that much in this game. Well, obviously the spread always matters. I don't mean to say it like that, but you look at the victories that Miami had. The smallest victory Miami had is 6 points. Their average margin of victory has been 8 points in this series. The smallest victory the Boston Celtics had has been 13 points, and their average margin of victory has been 19 points in the series. So, laying the 2 points with the Boston, 2.5 with Boston here is not something that's going to keep me away from it. Getting 2.5 with Miami is not something that's going to push me onto that side. If you like Miami, I think you just play them straight up on the money line at plus money. If you like the Celtics, I have no problem just taking Celtics and laying the minus 2.5 points with them. Because again, we haven't seen any buzzer beater 1-point victories in this series. It's been comfortable one way or another with either one of these teams kind of pulling away at the end. So now let's talk about the total a little bit here, because this is a very interesting situation. So really, well, let's start with just the number for this game, right? So Friday night after the other game was done, I don't know, maybe it was 11:30-ish or so when it finally dropped. FanDuel and Caesars both dropped this number, posted a number of 200 for the total. Now, that would have been the lowest total of the series. The series last game, the total ended at 201, I think, and that was the lowest number of the series. So they opened it at 200, even after that last game finished with, I think it was 214 points is what that last game finished with as a total. Within an hour of FanDuel and Caesars opening this number at 200, it had already been bet pretty heavily and dropped all the way down to 197.5. Since then, it's actually dropped another 2 points where we now have it all the way down at 195.5 today for the total. And you can play that over or under minus 110 on basically every site at the moment. Maybe it starts drifting a little bit throughout the day here, but I don't think we're going to get any lower of a number there. I think if anything, the number is going to adjust back upwards. But I do think that you may be able to find somewhere out there, one of these books is probably dropping it to like minus 108 or something, or minus 108 on either side, just to try to get the business, because everybody else is sitting at minus 110. And there's a lot of screeners out there that will only show you the best number. So these sites are starting to get smart about it, the online books, and, trying to game the system a little bit by going maybe a basis point or two below what their competition is, so that their name or their symbol pops up in a lot of these screeners. And I understand where they're coming from because we have a screener like this that we use as well over at FTNBets.com that you guys can get over and check out, all the charts, all the graphs, all the stats, everything's over there along with all the picks and the expert analysis. And this is one of those things. By the way, I wanted to mention, if you do get over to FTN Bets today or FTN Daily or FTN Fantasy, use promo code Benny. You can save 20% off on any package. The early bird packages for football season are only up through Memorial Day weekend. So if you guys are interested in getting over and joining the team over at FTN Fantasy, FTN Daily, or FTN Bets, now is the time to do it because it's the cheapest it's going to be. Use promo code Benny. You can even save 20% on that. If you wait until, I don't know when it's going up. Maybe it's Monday, maybe it's Tuesday. Whenever, Magic Sports Guy decides he wants to flip the switch on it, this is going to be the cheapest you guys can get it. So take advantage of it now. If you know you're going to be involved during the football season, make sure you guys lock in that lower price today. So anyway, while we're looking at this series, I wanted to talk about why the numbers in this series are the way they are. So in game one of this series, we had 225 points. Game two was 229. Game three was 212. Game four was 184. Game five was 173. And then game six jumped back up to 217. So what happened in games 3, 4, and 5 that the totals were 212, 184, and 173? Well, basically what happened is we saw bad Jimmy Butler. Game 3, the 212 game was the game that Jimmy Butler got hurt and didn't play in the second half. The 184 game and the 173 game were the games where Jimmy scored like 6 points and 9 points. The games that went 225, 229, and the last game that went 214, those were the games where Jimmy Butler had 41, 29, and 47 points. So you ask, what's the difference between those totals? Well, the difference is Jimmy Butler scored 25 to 30 more points in the 3 games that they won than he did in the 3 games that they lost. The 3 games that Miami lost are, the games where, well, actually they won that first game, but 2 of the 3 games they lost were the games where it was 184 and 173 points. You give Jimmy his normal totals in those games, now you're back up into that 205 or 200 point range right there. So really, when I look at this total being all the way down at 195.5 right now, I just think that number's too low. 195.5 is the number you would expect in a blowout where Miami can't score because Jimmy wasn't playing well or was playing hurt. And I don't think that's what we're going to get here in a game 7. I think we're going to get these teams playing a lot better. I think Jimmy's going to give everything he's got, even if it, winds up like with his knee basically exploding before the end of the game. I don't see Jimmy being passive here or taking a back seat. I think he's going to be super aggressive. And the super aggressive games are the games where he scored. And the games where he scored are the games that have been higher scoring. So I like the over on this 195.5 number right now. I think it was, like I said, it started at 200, which would have been the lowest number of this series so far. And it dropped all the way down to 195.5. I don't know. Maybe I'm just looking at this game a lot differently than everybody else is, but a healthy Jimmy Butler, or at least a motivated Jimmy Butler that wants to go out there and dominate. Every time we've seen that so far in this series, the numbers have been pretty damn good for, for the Miami Heat. So to me, I like the over 195.5 as my play on the total here. I just think this number has ran down way too low and people are way too down on the number of points that are going to be scored in this game here. So now let's move on to talk about the player props. The last thing I want to talk about here today. Let's start with Jimmy Butler right there. I mean, listen, the 3 wins that Miami has, Jimmy has, well, I shouldn't say that, but the 3 good games that Jimmy had, 41, 29, 47. Those are the higher scoring games in the series. They did win the one game where I think he only had 9 points at the half, and then that's when he got hurt. So we can kind of excuse him for that. The game 4 and game 5 performances, the 6 points and the 13 points that he had, that's the Jimmy Butler that was banged up and probably shouldn't have been playing. The way he looked yesterday, I don't think there's anything about him that means he shouldn't be playing. The last game, he went out there and absolutely dominated, and that's how they won. So I would expect to see Jimmy Butler be aggressive again here today. Again, in those games where he's played well, 41, 29, 47 points in those in those games there. The over 27.5. Now, again, Jimmy had been sitting at like 24.5 for most of the series. So the 27.5 is a number that's bumped up. But again, based on the way that they've used him and based on the way that he's played, I don't think it's crazy. That 27.5 number is at minus 125 on both DraftKings and Caesars here today. And here's the big thing. MGM already moved this up to 28.5 and has it sitting at standard juice at minus 110 right there. The 28.5 number is where I think this should be. So to get over 27.5 on Jimmy, I think is pretty good. It's not a bad play to play on the sleeper app. I have it there as something that I'm looking at, but I actually don't even mind going over to BetMGM at that minus 110 and playing that higher number of 28.5 straight up on the sports books here today. So let's move over to the other team and talk about Al Horford over 8.5 rebounds. Something we had last game and we cashed. We had it the game before and we didn't cash where he only had 7. We had it the game before that where he did cash when he had 13 or 14 rebounds there. In the last 4 games, he's had 14, 13, 7, and 9 rebounds. So this is a guy that's been averaging, like 10.75 rebounds in the last 4 games of the series. It's a good rebounding matchup for him. Boston has won the rebounding matchup against Miami in this series. I think it's 43 rebounds per game to 40, but don't quote me on that. I got to double check. I didn't look at that number since, before the last game here. Horford, though, at that 8.5 rebound number, minus 140 is what BetMGM and DraftKings have that at right now. Most sites have it from minus 127 to minus 135 elsewhere. So again, this is another one of those things that we're giving an implied probability of 57, 58% on the sports books by the bettors. So I like Al Horford over 8.5 rebound again. One of my favorite plays to play over on the sleeper app. At 130, 140, I don't really want to play this one on the sports book, but the fact that we can still get the over 8.5 on sleeper, definitely something I'm going to be interested in here today. One thing I am playing on the sports book today is going to be Marcus Smart over 3.5 rebounds. This is at minus 104 on FanDuel. In this series, the 4 games that he's played, 9, 4, 5, and 4 rebounds. So he's gotten over 3.5 in every game. And the thing that gives me a lot of confidence, in game 5, we talked about how he only played 24 minutes, which is why I played the under on his assist in game 6, which is something that actually hit. I think we actually got lucky there. I played that under because I didn't think he was going to play 35 to 40 minutes. Well, he did play 40 minutes. And I said in that game too, if you think he's going to play 40 minutes, the better thing to do is take the over on rebounds because he's been going over it in every one of these games. I thought he was only going to play like maybe 30, 32 minutes. And that's why I said I'd rather play the under on his assist, because if he's not getting the full minutes, then, that's going to be the thing that suffers more. After seeing him play 40 minutes, though, I'm going back to the rebounding well here. So minus 104 on FanDuel, over 3.5 for Marcus Smart. And like I said, it really comes down to the fact that this is a closeout game. As long as Smart's healthy enough to play 35 to 40 minutes, which, again, is what he did last game, so I'm not going to think he's not healthy enough to do it. I think he's going to go over here. I don't want to play this on the sleeper app, though. I like it a lot more on the sports books. Minus 104 on FanDuel, the way I'm looking at this one. And then the last thing I'm looking at here is going to be Bam Adebayo under 15.5 points. So Bam had a big game in game 3, I think it was, the game that Jimmy got hurt and sat out the second half. Bam put up 31. He was just absolutely dominant in that game. In game 5, he put up 18. In game 6, I was mistakenly thinking that he would be the guy that would have to pick up his scoring because, again, they had 82 and 80 points in the 2 previous games. And I said, well, listen, if they're going to win in game 6 with Hero out and all these other guys banged up, they're going to need a big game out of Bam. They got a huge game out of Jimmy and didn't need a big game out of Bam. And the more I look back on it, that was probably the way to look at it, because in 4 of the 6 games of the series, Bam Adebayo has 10 points or less. He had 10, 6, 9, 6 to go along with the 31 and the 18. So under 15.5, I think, is a really good number for us to take here. It's minus 125 to minus 130 at the sports books. MGM minus 130 is the high number there in the market. And then you even have FanDuel, who moved this down from 15.5 down to 14.5, and they have it slightly reduced on the juice at minus 102 on FanDuel. So, again, you're getting this minus 130, minus 125, minus 130, 56% chance implied probability. And then again, FanDuel moved it down to 14.5, which means that is the direction that this is going in the downward angle. Like I said, other than that big explosion in game 3 and game 5 in the fourth quarter, where he had like 8 points in the fourth quarter after having like 8 points basically through the first, I don't know, like 30 minutes of that game there. Bam really hasn't been doing a lot of scoring here. Horford's done a good job on him on the interior, Robert Williams, those kind of guys there. So I like the under on Bam Adebayo points. I like it better on Sleeper than I do on the sports books, but that's another thing that we can talk about here in a minute. So now let me give you guys my Sleeper play of the day for Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals in the NBA playoffs here. Remember, you can go down to the description below, sleeper.com/FTNBets. Makes you eligible for the $100 deposit match bonus on your first deposit here. And here's what I would do. You put in that $100. If you can afford to, you should always put in the maximum amount that you can get a bonus for. So if you can afford $100, you put in the $100, right? Sleeper will match your $100. That'll give you $200 to play with. Here's how I would play that $200 today. I would take what we were just talking about with Bam Adebayo under 15.5 points here today as one leg of my sleeper play. And then the other leg of my sleeper play will be the other thing that we've been talking about for a couple of games in this series, which is Al Horford over 8.5 rebounds. So Bam Adebayo under 15.5 points, Al Horford over 8.5 rebounds. You deposit 100, you got 200 to play with. You play that 200. If you win, you're going to end up with $600 in your account. That means for the $100 out of your pocket, you're getting a plus 500 return on Bam Adebayo to go under 15.5 points, something he's done in 4 of 6 games, and Al Horford to go over 8.5 rebounds, something he's done in 3 of the last 4 games. So I really like this Bam and Al Horford play over on Sleeper today. That is going to be how I'm going to make some money here in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. So there you go. That's going to wrap it up for today's FTN Betscast. Good luck today, everybody. Make sure you get over to Sleeper and sign up. Make sure you get over to FTN Bets or FTN Fantasy or FTN Daily. Use that promo code Benny. All of this information that we're talking about right now is down in the description of this podcast. So go down there, click on the links, and save some money. Good luck tonight, everybody.
Live from the new sports betting capital of the world.
You might be from Texas, but I'm from New Jersey.